All right, good to see you, Nate. Good morning slash good evening. I guess we can jump right in. So Thailand had their recent general elections May 14th, right?
Yeah, May 14th. That's right.
Yeah. Okay. There's been a lot of coverage over this about sort of coalition building and talk of coups and the left leaning opposition. So can you give us just an overview of what's been going on so far in these elections?
Yeah, sure. So good to see you, Chase. Good morning slash good evening. Right, in Thailand, so there's a pretty big controversial election. It's the second election since the 2017 constitution, written under the auspices of the military, who have been in power, of course, since the coup in 2014. What happened in the election was there were two military-backed parties. Both of them did very poorly, and the two main opposition parties, the Move Forward Party and the Pheu Thai Party, dominated the election, securing 141 seats in the first case to 151 in the first case and 141 in the second, so totaling 292, while the military parties only got about 70, 75, something like that. So we have a clear message from Thai voters that they prefer non-military backed rule. And they even went with the more radical Move Forward Party, who is very skeptical of the monarchy. And that's a big social taboo in Thailand. Therefore, revising lèse-majesté laws that criminalize criticism of the monarchy. And
They drove many of the protests, right?
Yeah, that drove a lot of the protests. But what also, so for context, 2020, 2021 protests that happened in several stages. Another driver of that was that the Thai government at the time banned the Move Forward Party's predecessor, the Forerunner Party, the Future Forward Party. So there were a lot of protests about that too. So the fact that the successor party of this banned party actually won these elections really sort of shows how popular sentiment is shifting in Thailand towards this more monarchy skeptic view. So that's what happened. To continue the story here, just because they won the most seats, that does not mean the opposition or the former opposition, I guess, will have a clear process or a clear path toward actually forming a government.
So that's where it gets sticky, right? Because they won most of the voters, but there's still this 250 seat, right, military-backed Senate that they have to overcome. So what is it in the House that they just voted on? There's 500 seats, right? And
That's
so
right.
that plus the 250 in the Senate, which are all the sort of military-backed coalition, usually all of them, but there's been some wrinkles in that lately. And so they have to overcome sort of the aggregate majority there, and they don't have the numbers. They need some sort of a middle ground party like Bumja Thai or the pro-royalist parties, but partnering with them is complicated, right?
Right. Yeah. So there are a lot of constraints and complexities. Some of them Move Forward imposed on themselves. So they've said previously that they won't work with any government, any party in the former ruling coalition, which includes the Bumja Thai Party, who placed second with 70 seats. So they're sort of going to be a kingmaker. They've long been perceived as a kingmaker party. Nobody thought that they could win the election on their own, and they didn't. So, but they did come in third, and their 70 seats are important. So just to get back to that sort of basic arithmetic, we have 500 House seats, 250 Senate seats. They all vote together to select the next prime minister, which should happen in August. So after a 60-day time period, they'll all get together and vote on the prime minister. But the complication there is the Senate, 250 seats. They're not elected. They were selected by the military-backed government. They're very much in the military camp. So the challenge for the Move Forward Party, one of the challenges, will be to overcome this numerical disadvantage that they have. So they did not secure a majority in the elections. They've been building a coalition since the results, and they're up to 313 people in their coalition, plus 14 senators have come out and said that they will, in fact, vote in line with the popular vote. About the same number, about a dozen or so, have come out and said that they wouldn't. So there is a lot in flux here. A lot of pieces are moving, but that will remain a challenge. Even though, I guess, for the Move Forward Party, 14 senators coming out and saying that they will go with the people's mandate has to be an encouraging sign. But they're still short of that 376 magic number, if you will, to secure a majority and counteract the Senate, who will presumably be voting against them.
Gotcha. Okay, so zooming out of sort of the numbers, which is very important right now, but as you mentioned, it's dizzying. All the changes that have been going on in the last few days. What happens if they pull it together? Somehow they make a coalition with enough people from likely the centrist parties and the leftist parties, and they have a formal government that is not under the sort of pro-monarchy. We haven't talked about the elephant in the room, right? A coup or a potential coup. Thailand this is sort of a national pastime for them. So is that the most likely scenario we're looking at here? Is it some sort of squishy middle ground where maybe the government intervenes a little bit, but we're not talking anything military wise?
Yeah, and sure. So not to undercut your question here, but before we get there, there is this 60-day window before the results are finalized, giving parties an opportunity for horse trading.
Right. So we've got time.
We've got time, yes, but in that intervening period, there are still some things that the military establishment can do to thwart a move forward party-led government. So in addition to the Senate, there's also the Constitutional Court, and the Constitutional Court is the one that banned the Future Forward Party back in 2020, and there's a petition in front of them again to ban the Move Forward Party. Now, this is on a technicality. It's a bit complicated in the weeds, but the leader of the Move Forward Party, Pita Limjaroenrat, excuse me for the pronunciation, he owns shares in a defunct media company that hasn't been active for like a decade, but that's still unconstitutional. That you cannot stand for prime minister and own any part of a media company. So this has been brought before the Constitutional Court. A complaint has been made. We'll see how the court deals with this, if it rules on the technicality or not. So that's sort of the first thing to look for before the government is formed.
And so just to dig into that one particularly, if that happens, right, and we're just left with one sort of left-leaning main party, and they have to form a coalition with the centrists and some of the royalists, the Move Forward folks, these are the protesting folks mainly from before. So if their party is banned, can we expect protests the likes of which we saw a few years ago?
Absolutely, yeah. So people, I feel pretty confident saying that the average Thai citizen is pretty sick of this, pretty sick of the military intervening in the democratic process. Happened several times in this century. 2006, 2014, two coups, a lot of meddling, sleight of hand stuff. Otherwise, coming from the military. So yes, I would definitely anticipate any kind of serious meddling that alters the result to have consequences in the form of mass protests, similar to what we saw in 2020, 2021.
Okay, and what if they're able to move this through? There is no banning of the party. There is no coup. Knock on wood. No one wants that. And there's a sort of a new regime in power. How does Thai policy change? I know that might be assuming quite a lot, building assumption upon assumption right now. But can you speak to either in that scenario or this sort of like muddled coalition scenario? What does Thai policy look like? Its relations with the region, all of that.
Right. So if Move Forward successfully forms a government and is at the top of it, they'll have to work with their coalition partners and be constrained in that manner. So Pheu Thai Party, they've come out and said they don't support amending the Lèse-Majesté laws, and they're the Move Forward Party's main partner at this point. So what I would sort of guess is that if Move Forward really wants a sustainable coalition, they'll have to back off from amending these laws, at least immediately, because a lot of their partners are just like, no, this is a red line. We can't support you here. We do support you forming a government because you got the most votes. I mean, that's what the Pheu Thai Party is saying. They believe in democracy. This is what they say. They believe in democracy and therefore will support the top vote getter. But they're like, no, we can't amend these laws. So that's my guess there. They'll have to back off maybe in a second term or a few years down the road, they'll revisit it. But if they want these partners, they'll have to back off of that. Alternatively, if they don't, because it is one of their main campaign points, their main thrusts is the monarchy is too powerful, these laws are too authoritarian, et cetera, et cetera. they might lose credibility by backing off of that from their base. So if they alternatively pursue it, this could lead to very much, a political deadlock, a parliament that can't get anything done, parties leaving the coalition and collapsing the government. So there are a lot of sort of bad signs here, depending on how hard the Move Forward Party pushes their, one of their main goals of amending these laws.
Right, bad for political stability. There's a lot that could change here, and so I know we should probably wrap up here pretty soon. But that's sort of like the internal policy going on. What about Thailand's relationships with the rest of ASEAN? Myanmar comes front of mind, but also Thailand's relationships with the U.S., China, all of that. Does that change under a new coalition government?
Yeah, probably. So the military government, of course, Thailand is a treaty ally with the United States, but the military government has leaned toward China a bit. But I would say, in my opinion, they've done a pretty good job of balancing between the two. They have decent, or at least stable, relations with the U.S. and pretty good relations with China.
Yeah, there was a rocky patch after the coup, but they seem to have gotten over it, basically.
That's right. So, either a military victory or a Futai victory would have portended a continuation of that sort of status quo. But the Move Forward Party, again, another issue they're very vocal about is the fact that the Thai military establishment and the Myanmar military junta, on a personal, individual basis, a lot of folks in both of those institutions have tight, chummy business relationships and personal relationships. And the Futai Party, the Move Forward Party, has said that their foreign policy objectives will be to isolate the Myanmar junta, basically jump in more into the Western camp. Obviously, they have to be careful. They're in China's neighborhood. They won't be too blatant about it, but I do think from a U.S. foreign policy perspective, the Move Forward is probably the party that Washington wanted. They didn't say anything to that effect, but just sitting in Washington, this is the best for them, because the Move Forward Party has indicated a desire to move more toward the West and away from China, away from Russia, and away from the Myanmar junta. So you could see in the ASEAN Association of Southeast Asian Nations grouping, you could see a Move Forward-led Thailand join the likes of Indonesia and Malaysia in speaking out against the Myanmar junta. So another ASEAN member state pushing that direction, could add some momentum to putting some pressure on the junta and getting some results there.
Gotcha. And just to add a little more color to it, because they are one of the countries in the region that borders Myanmar, they do have to take a delicate stance toward this issue, because it's not some issue far away they can weigh in on and just forget about it. This is on their border. It has bled over into the Thai border villages before, right? Some of this violence. So yeah, they definitely have to approach this as a very real and pressing nearby issue, not just something to spout off about as a new regime.
Absolutely, yeah.
All right, well, thanks, Nate. You thoroughly convinced me. Thai politics is simple, and we can move on to something else. I appreciate it, and we're hoping all goes well here, and we're coup-proof here in a couple months' time.
All right, thanks, Chase.
Yeah, sure thing. Thank you, everyone, for listening. If you'd like to peruse our analysis on this and many other geopolitical topics of the day, just as interesting, just as complicated, please check out our content at worldview.stratfor.com, or you can learn more about our business services at ranenetwork.com. Thanks so much.
Thank you.